we stopped by the pond because there were some baby ducks that had hatched. And while we were there, a bird, I don't know, a baby bird, it couldn't fly or it fell out of the nesting box, I'm not sure, fell into the pond and was struggling. And one of the children got very upset. Now this is someone who, you know, would easily have stepped on it a few weeks ago, wasn't really thrilled with animals and hadn't been very kind to other children, saw this poor thing struggling and was very upset about it and wanted, so I let him go in and lift the bird out. And when he was holding the bird, there was a look on his, I can't describe the look on his face. And I really think that from that point onward, he started to take more of an interest in people around him. He was less mean, less cruel, because children can be very cruel sometimes.
I think the natural dyes were my favorite activity because it's so magic how to extract the color from the flower and get it onto your cloth. And the kids, especially the really young ones, get really hands-on. They love it. Even these little boys, one moment they're fighting, and then you give them a big pot full of flowers to tear up, and they're smelling them and putting them in their hair and really enjoying the experience.
Kind of smells like sugar, like sweet stuff.
Many families are suffering economic hardship. There's families that are breaking up, and all those kinds of pressures on the children. We need to teach them how to handle those and how to find ways to relax and to deal with those. And I really believe that the gardens and the play areas with the flowers and things really help them to do that.
It makes me feel good that lots of parents have helped out by giving us seeds and planting and everything.
I think the most important thing to make something of this scale happen is to involve as many people as possible. The students, the staff, the parents, but also the wider community. The surrounding daycares, the Y, the neighbors.
Especially if you do something with signage or tours or parties on after school or a weekend tour with parents. There's just a great opportunity to educate the whole community about naturalization so that it spreads out to local homeowners as well.
In general, the support that's out there for communities and community leaders who want to see one of these projects happen, there's a lot of diversity in that, the form of support. There's financial support, there's support in design, there's support for trees and plant material, and most of those resources can come from within the community.
I would say it's not too much work. You start with a small area, you decide what you want to do with that area. We have a committee. The committee meets regularly, and then if we have concerns, we go to the staff and we say, okay, look, this needs to be done. Do we have volunteers? And we always have people willing to do it.
It doesn't matter where you are or what your conditions are, you can still have a naturalized garden. Even if you're in pretty well 100% shade, the trick is to think of what happens in nature. So where is it 100% shady in nature? Well, in a really dense forest. So what you would do in those conditions is try to create a woodland garden using native plants that grow in the wild in forest conditions. You know, things like jack-in-the-pulpit and trilliums and wild ginger and ferns. So instead of thinking of something like shade as a liability, it's actually, a perfect opportunity for a woodland garden.
Naturalizing an area, you're reducing the amount of energy and that goes into maintaining that environment in terms of water or mowing the grass, and then obviously the application of pesticides and herbicides can be eliminated completely, and that is in itself enough of a reason to take on one of these projects. In fact, we had one school this year from the Yukon in Whitehorse that tore up a huge segment of asphalt, I think a couple hundred square feet, and replanted it all with tundra plants.
And then you start hearing about projects in PEI, and you start hearing about projects on the coast in BC, and then you begin to realize that this is more than just a local initiative, a local movement. It's very national, and it's international. There are people doing this in every country.
Yeah, Great Britain, France, New Zealand, Australia, the United States, Norway, Sweden. just to name a few of the ones that we actually interact with on a fairly regular basis. Some programs, especially the one in Britain, Learning Through Landscapes, takes the approach of it's a more holistic approach where they see the schoolyard as a resource that can be developed in terms of a cultural diversity, recreating houses, Iron Age settlements to explore the history of the site, to bringing livestock onto the school ground, sheep or cattle or, you know, horses. Some places have upwards of 10 beehives where the kids are actually dressed up in beekeeping suits and go out and maintain them.
For a lot of kids here, I think this is their only experience of something a little wilder and sort of some secret place and a shrub that they could go and sit under or sit behind and maybe see a bird or bird's nest or a snake.
We have hope that by having the stewardship with nature, by spending time in nature, they will take responsibility for our environment, their environment.
This young generation is going to grow up to be the most environmentally conscious generation we've ever had. And I'm for them 100%.
We had this gardens and everything. I didn't know how much worms help the environment.
We catch bumblebees here on the goldenrod because they don't have stingers.
Because they won't sting you.
They won't sting you.
It's just bees that sting and wasps.
The honeybees sting you, but the bumblebees don't.
We hatched an egg case of praying mantises, and each egg case has 100, and we haven't seen one of them. We used to learn things about gardens, but not this much.
We didn't learn how to plant anything from writing a book.
Yeah.